All right, Peter, thank you so much. Let's now go back to one of our top stories, as we've been reporting that the ANC has disbanded its Youth League leadership. The decision follows the National Working Committee's recommendations to the NEC to install a national task team. The task team will oversee the League's activities until January next year, when the new leadership is expected to be elected.
Since its mandate has come to an end, the National Executive Committee dissolved the ANC Youth League National Executive Committee, and we appointed a National Youth Task Team to oversee the process of rebuilding the ANC Youth League, of implementing a program of action, working with Progressive Youth Alliance and other youth formations, and organize a successful National Congress of the ANC Youth League not later by January 31, 2020.
All right, in a short while, we'll get reaction on that story. But we do know, of course, during that briefing as well, the SG of the ANC and the DSG, that's Jesse Duarte, were talking about a whole number of developments, of course, the recent developments, that, of course, involving ANC NEC member Derek Hanekom, who've been referred to officials for processing. This is related to the alleged meeting he had with the EFF's leadership. So the DSG, they're saying that the referral will include some extensive consultation with Hanekom himself to try to find out what the contents of the particular meeting were. And we do know that Hanekom had confirmed that he did have that meeting with the EFF. That meeting, of course, it is alleged that it was thought to remove the former President Jacob Zuma. So the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Jesse Duarte, saying that the ANC will deal with this particular matter. Now, going back to the issue related to the disbandment of the ANC Youth League, we'll give you some reaction in a short while. We have ANC Youth League member joining us from our studios in Pretoria, Zuko Godlimpi. You do know, of course, they had previously raised concerns. They wanted the Youth League to be disbanded. So this, of course, happened. The announcement was made earlier today. Let's take you now live to our studios in Pretoria, where ANC Youth League member Zuko Godlimpi joins us now. Good afternoon to you, Zuko. Thank you so much indeed for coming through. This is what you've been calling for, the disbandment of the ANC Youth League. Your take on the announcement today.
Thanks for having me. We called for two things. We called for the disbandment of the former National Executive Committee of the Youth League. We accept and welcome the decision of the ANC to heed our call in that respect. But we also called for the appointment of a task team of young people between the ages of 14 and 35. And this is because we understand that the Youth League belongs to its members, and the constitution of the Youth League only allows for membership between the ages of 14 to 35. So we are truly unhappy with the decision of the ANC NEC to appoint a group of people, none of whom are youth. All the people who are in that task team are above the age of 40 at least. And that does not make any logical sense if you consider the substance of what we raised to the ANC NEC.
But were you consulted? Did the mother body consult you before coming up with the list of the names of the members of this task team? We have names such as Colin Maine himself, the former president. You have Njabulo Nzuza, Regine Kabinde. They were both in the previous leadership of the Youth League itself. And you have former ministers, the likes of Nomvula Mkonyane, Faith Mutambi is there as well, and many others. So you are not happy with the task team itself, you say?
We were not consulted. Had we been consulted, we were going to reject this proposed list. And we reject it now because it's inconsistent with the provisions of the ANC Youth League constitution. There's no way that this group of ANC leaders, who are all not Youth League members, some of whom are busy with government work, can be tasked with the revival of the ANC Youth League. And the contradiction contained in that list is the fact that the National Executive Committee appoints the same members of the failed National Executive Committee that could not deliver a National Congress. They retain the top 5 of the former NEC, the same people who failed to help the ANC Youth League to go to its National Congress. So what is going to be different now? How are they going to suddenly be able to do this? And the second point is, last year the ANC appointed a team of NEC members who were supposed to assist the ANC Youth League leadership to go to Congress. So both the NEC of the ANC Youth League and the appointed task team of the ANC failed to deliver on what they were told to do. The ANC reproduces the same setup again and tells us that we must believe that there is a way that the National Congress can be convened by these people. So we reject it completely.
But at the same time, one could argue, Zuko, that you've got former ANC Youth League members. Malusi Kigaba is part of the task team. Fikile Mbalula is also there. They may be people with some expertise. They may be able to organize and restructure the structures of the Youth League itself.
We don't have short memory. The same approach was taken in 2015. The same group of former leaders of the ANC Youth League were given a responsibility to convene the 25th National Congress. And that National Congress was politically and procedurally mismanaged by them. So we have recent historical experience to refer to. The outcomes of the 25th National Congress in Galaga in 2015 were a product of a process that was not fair, it was not transparent, and it was not accepted by all of us who were delegates at that National Congress. How the electoral process was led by these former leaders of the ANC Youth League and the NEC leadership of the ANC, it was not fair. So we pretty much can expect the same outcome to throw itself onto the table again. So we've worked with them before. We don't doubt their capabilities as ANC leaders. But what we're saying is, because they are elders and they are far removed from experiences of the youth on the ground, there is no way that they can be the ones who discharge this task of delivering a credible National Congress. All
right. So, seeing that you are rejecting this task team, what happens going forward? You say you are not consulted. The question is, what happens now going forward, since you're not happy with the team that's been constituted?
Earlier today, we released a statement communicating our dissatisfaction. And in closing the statement, we stated that we're going to sit, have a discussion amongst ourselves and pursue a course of action that all of us will agree on. But when the ANC leadership fails to uphold its own constitution, the constitution of the ANC Youth League, both of which explain that the Youth League is the collective property of the youth of South Africa between the ages of 14 and 35, then they come with an outcome like this. It sounds as though the ANC wants someone else to teach them how to obey their own constitution. So we don't rule out the possibility of approaching a court of law to help the ANC properly interpret its own constitution. But politically, in our statement, we've already expressed that the Youth League has to have a discussion amongst its members to pose the question, going forward, do we want to have a scenario where the autonomy of the ANC Youth League is constrained by the constitution of the ANC? And whether we do not want to have a discussion about exploring a possibility of a model such as the South African Youth Congress, which is a Congress youth formation under the leadership of the ANC, but that is not constrained by the constitutional prescripts of the ANC leadership. Because we've seen them time and again, especially over the last 7 years, that the ANC leadership has a propensity to compromise the organizational integrity of the ANC Youth League, to compromise the political autonomy of the ANC Youth League, and to disempower members of the ANC Youth League from shaping a radical political agenda that is consistent with their own aspirations. So there are many options that we're exploring as members of the ANC Youth League, as Congress youth, all of whom are concerned about the fact that the leadership of the ANC doesn't seem to recognize that the bad state of the ANC Youth League has a negative spin-off on the capacity of the ANC to sustain itself as a party of the future. I mean, today the ANC is a party in decline. Electorally, the ANC dropped consistently over the last 3 elections. 2% in 2014, 2% in 2016, and eventually 5% in this election. That has to do with the fact that the ANC does not have the organizational capacity to connect with the youth of South Africa and to represent itself as a party of the future. That is the vision to carry their aspirations. Now, if you have an outcome such as this one, it constrains the capacity of us as members of the ANC Youth League to set in motion a process of renewal by which we can rescue the ANC.
Now, quickly, I hear talk about the options that you may have. You'll go back and decide what happens going forward. You do not rule out the possibility of approaching the courts. You don't mention anything about consulting with the mother body itself. And this, I think, talks to the relationship that you have with the mother body. What's your relationship like? Do you have a healthy relationship with the ANC? As the mother body?
Our understanding is that we have a healthy relationship with the ANC. That's partly why we submitted a memorandum of demands to the ANC leadership. That was our way of consulting with them. And we trusted the wisdom of the ANC NEC to apply their minds and deliver an outcome that was consistent with the political principles outlined in our memorandum. So we engaged the ANC, we marched to them as a form of consultation and engagement with them. It is the leadership of the ANC that has not called us, has not sat down with us, and has not explained the rationale of their decision to us. We understood the decision in the same way that any other South African understood it, as a function of a press conference.
All right, Zuko, we have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming through. But as it stands now, you're rejecting the task team that's been constituted, and of course you'll map a way forward as to what happens next. That's Zuko Godlimpi. He's a member of the ANC Youth League, joining us now live from Asturias and Pretoria, giving reaction to the announcement earlier today by the ANC's SG that a task team has been constituted really to take forward the mandate of the Youth League and to also help the league itself to form its structures before they could go to a conference.